When it comes to decluttering, do you feel as if you can only use a softly approach, or do you think you are ready for some tough love? In today's podcast, we are going to talk about both and why tough love may just be the answer to you becoming unstuck.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more, or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, Leslie, tough love today. And I'm like, am I going to struggle saying tough love? That's actually quite a tongue twister for some reason for me.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how you fare with tough love as we're going through it. Yeah, we wanted to talk about this because it's quite interesting, Ingrid, because tough love is something that we use sometimes as terminology that people understand in the decluttering world. So basically, you and I are typically known for having a more gentle approach to decluttering than a tough love approach. But that's not to say at all that we don't employ tough love when we feel it is necessary and when we feel that the person we are talking to, whether that's one of our one-to-one clients or whether that's somebody in our membership, could use a little bit of tough love. And so I think it's something we wanted to talk about, the sort of pros and cons of it. What is it? What impact does it have? What are the benefits of it? But before we get started, we thought we would look at the actual dictionary definition of tough love. So Ingrid.
Exactly. So what we found is that tough love is the act of treating a person sternly or harshly with the intent to help them in the long run. People exhibit and act upon tough love when attempting to address someone else's undesirable behavior. Tough love can be used in many scenarios, such as when parenting, teaching, rehabilitating, self-improving, or simply when making a decision. Tough love is usually seen as a positive due to its encouragement of growth, boundaries, resilience, and independence.
Now, as I look at that definition, Ingrid, I prefer the latter half of the definition, talking about it's positive, it's in growth, boundaries, resilience, and independence. And I would definitely stand behind that.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely don't treat people sternly or harshly, to be fair. And we're not attempting to address undesirable behavior. What we're typically in the decluttering world is attempting to do is to, as we said in the intro, to get people a little bit unstuck. And so one of the terms that we use quite often is if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And so if people have always been, we're big advocates of being kind to yourself. But if people are continually, oh, that's too hard for me, I'm not ready for that today, I've not got the time for that today. If you're continually going down that route, sometimes you don't make the progress that you would like. And so sometimes you need a little bit of a kind of reality check, a sort of talking to from whatever avenues that might come from to kind of catapult you forward a little bit. And so we want to look at this, we want to reframe this into positive. It's not about being stern, it's not about being harsh, it's not about telling somebody off. It's about kind of reigniting that spark to look at things in a different way. I think that would be the way that I would say it. What do you think, Ingrid?
Well, I'm kind of laughing very silently myself here because I've been told that I can be quite stern and harsh. But I'm thinking now, is it because maybe I can maybe look quite serious, or because Dutch people are known to be like super direct? As you know, we both follow an Instagram account, Double Dutch, which is this guy who kind of puts a spotlight on how Dutch people can react to certain situations. And it's like a mirror in front of my face thinking, I do that, So we are known to be quite direct and come across quite rude sometimes, but I've been abroad for a long time, so I'm really like I'm keeping everything crossed here, and I've become a bit better. But I think I
Yeah.
am quite known as quite stern, I think, but I don't mean to. It's just I think when I've got my serious face on.
I don't know. I don't think that at all. I don't think people consider you to be stern. But I think that it's like anything. It's like any kind of transformational journey that you're
Mm,
a part of as a kind of facilitator, as a leader, as a coach, as a parent, as a decluttering person. It's about tuning into different things depending on what people need on any given day. And so,
mhm,
if I think about, it's interesting really, because when we for the clutter fairy, so when people come to us for one-to-one help, we have a sort of, so we summarize, what we do is we kind of summarize people's consultations into, and so Katie will share that with me and share that with the clutter fairy that's going to work with them. And so quite often it will come up in there, they want a more tough love approach than a softly approach. But for some people, we still need to gauge it on the day, because what somebody considers to be a tough love approach and how they then respond to that on the day is going to be different. And indeed, on different days, you might prefer. Some days you might be fired up to take action and to sort of give yourself a little bit of a talking to and go, why am I being so ridiculous with this? I really need to do this. I need to move this forward. I've been faffing around with this for ages and I need to start making that visible progress. And
mhm.
so I think, we want it to be different depending on different days. And so,
Yeah.
there's not a one size fits all, but we wanted to talk about that. And, certainly in the membership, we have a thing so we do live Q&As all the time in the memberships where we really get down to the nitty gritty, don't we? So, and obviously some people have been with us quite a while in the membership. Some people are quite new. So the people that have been with us for a while, and sometimes, we do give them some tough love, but sometimes they're being very tough on themselves. And so we kind of pull that back in, don't we? And say, you're being too hard on yourself. So there's a little bit of it coming the other way around. And then other times when we feel like sometimes we need to give people a reality check as well, and
Hmm.
say, if you carry on like this, it's not going to happen for you, but all done with the best of intentions, which
Yeah.
is what the final part of that summary, that
Yeah.
definition was all about. Tough love
Yeah.
is usually seen as positive due to its
Yeah.
encouragement of growth, boundaries, resilience, and independence.
Yeah.
So, tough love in the context of decluttering, Ingrid, what do we
I
think it can do for us?
I think, tough love can be super, super beneficial. And I think having this chat so far, Leslie, can I just go back a little bit? Because it really it came through to me at the moment that I thought we do have a fine balance, don't we?
Yeah.
When we work with clients, when we work with members in a membership, we have to, exactly what you say, gauge it on the day and see what is best for this person in this moment. And because we've got so much experience with that, we know kind of, we can see how a client is when we talk to them. We can see, oh, okay, we can really kind of go for it today, push them out of the comfort zone a little bit, have a bit of tough love, or, oh, they've had a really, really tricky time. We need to do a more softly approach and kind of work their way through it. And I think that's why it can be so beneficial to be in our membership or have us as a professional organizer instead of asking a friend to come in, because they just come in on the day. They don't have all the experience that we have with how tough it can be to declutter and when tough love works and when it doesn't. And then when your best friend says, well, just chuck it out, well, you're like, oh, that's not helpful. Then that tough love is not working. While are far more equipped to read the situation, as you may.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you're right. I think, and you could argue that a friend knows people better than we do, for sure. Of course they do, because they've known you for decades sometimes. But I think it's about understanding that nuance of, how emotions
Yeah.
respond to clutter and how people respond emotionally to clutter, I mean.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think it's that and sort of understanding when someone's behavior or someone's decision making is not projecting them forward towards their goals. And that's what
Yeah.
this is about. It's all
Yeah.
about, one of the things that we do as professional organizers when we're working with people is we try and understand straight away what people's big picture goal is. So where do you want to get to, and how long do you want it to take? How far do you want to go? What's your big picture goal for your home? And then based on the decisions that you're making along the way, we're never there to say, well, you're never going to get there because you're not making the right decisions. But we are there to say, if you continue making the decisions in the way that you are at the moment, you've got two choices. You're either going to sort of stay stuck in the moment, or you can start to change the way you're making decisions a little bit, be a little bit more, not extreme, but a little bit more kind of, I don't know, measured with your decisions, go a little
Hmm.
bit deeper, try and push yourself a little bit more out of your comfort zone. And you might get there a little bit sooner and you might achieve your goals. It's about that realism about where your decision making is taking you. And I think
Hmm.
that's what we do in the membership as well. If we see somebody, because we see people repeatedly, albeit online, we see patterns of behavior. We read what people are doing in the forum. People explain a lot about their individual situations and individual circumstances. So we get a real sense of where people are, and we see that people are going backwards, that they have done a great job sometimes and are not patting themselves on the back enough. And so sometimes tough love does kick in, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
will do tough love sometimes on the podcast because we're talking to the whole rather than to an individual. So,
Yeah.
even with your children or somebody else, people stage interventions about people who've got addiction and all those kind of things. You should know how far you can go with that before it becomes detrimental and negative. And that's
Hmm.
that's where it's difficult. But in a decluttering context, what we wanted to talk about really, and I think one of the main things is, this idea of goal setting. And you have to continually keep reevaluating where you are and whether you're going to get there with the way that you're tackling decluttering today. So tough love will remind you why you're decluttering. You need to,
Yeah.
look at the positive side of that, to create the space, to reduce the stress, to simplify your life, not to just keep moving things from one place to another. So that's what it's all about. I think it allows you to keep focused on your goals, or to keep resetting and reminding you of those goals, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's really important that you've got that firmly in your mind. And I think, writing that down, putting it on your fridge, having it on your pin board, putting it in your phone, and just go, why am I doing this? And if the going gets tough, the tough get going, to go back and go, okay, I am not, I'm not doing this. I need to get, I need to be tough on myself because I see where I want to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, if you can sort of work with tough love, if you are working with somebody, if you've got somebody in your family who can help you, so if you reach out, obviously tough love normally, you've got self-inflicted tough love where you kind of, and it can't be that tough because it's coming from inside of you, isn't it? So it's normally with an external person. But I think if you push yourself out of your comfort zone, so let's call it that, if you're working independently, then it's only by seeing the results of what you do that you can realize that it was actually okay. So
Hmm.
to actually make that tough decision that went
Yeah.
against the grain of what you would normally do has left you with a feeling that actually I wasn't sure about making that decision to declutter that item, but a week later I've not missed it. And actually, I prefer not having it because it gives me simplicity, more space, more time, whatever that might be. And so I think it builds your confidence in the decisions that you're
Yeah.
making, and which is all
Yeah.
part of the decluttering journey, right?
Yeah, I think it's all about, learning to trust your own gut feeling and building your decluttering muscle along the way. The more, that's why it's so important to start with easier items and in easier rooms, because, if a spice is, let's just say, 4 years out of date, that is probably a much easier decision to make than, am I going to wear this top that I bought, that I paid £100 for, and I've worn only once? I mean, those are completely different decisions. And I think when you start smaller in easier rooms with easier items, you build up that confidence over time. And then when you go to the harder areas, you can trust yourself to make the right decisions, but you can only do that when you've been practicing this and you've been, and indeed, not just all the time go, oh, well, I can't make a decision on this now and leave this all in this just in case situation. You're not going to move forward. You're going to have to say sometimes to yourself, okay, come on, I'm ready for this. I trust myself. I know I can do this. I'm going to let it go, or I'm going to keep it. But not this in between stage, because that is really what muddies the water a lot.
And and Ingrid, the tough love might be something as simple as saying, I need to do an hour today. It
Yeah,
might be, it might be, I am going to go through today without having any kind of maybe box. I'm going to have either yeses or I'm going to have nos, and being a little bit tougher with yourself with those boundaries and sort of, when you've broken it down, said this is my goal for today in terms of time, in terms of what I want, where I want to get to. So it might be that, and what that then does is it tough love is about taking those excuses out. We tell ourselves stories all the time, don't we, Ingrid? And we
yeah,
have these
yeah,
roadblocks because we've been tuned in to doing this all of our life. And sometimes we need to go, enough's enough. I want that. I want the outcome more than I want the stuff. And to get there, I need to be harder on myself. And so, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to set you backwards. We don't want you to make a decision that you don't feel you're in control of. And so it's a real fine line, isn't it?
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
real fine line.
yeah,
It's very dependent on the day, on the person, how you're feeling, where you are in your decluttering journey. But it's important to recognize, I think, when you're being too soft on yourself, I think,
yeah,
and when you
yeah,
need to go that little bit tougher. So it's all
yeah,
quite deep, really, isn't it, Ingrid? But now let's go to a break and let's
yeah.
come back and talk about the benefits of using a tough love approach.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back after your little break. We are talking about tough love. And now let's talk about some of the benefits that using a tough love approach can have. Leslie.
Yeah, I mean, all of the things that we spoke about before, setting yourself boundaries, moving out of your comfort zone. I think basically what we're looking for in any decluttering journey, for it to be a measured, successful decluttering journey, is getting yourself to a stage where you feel fully in control of the decisions that you're making on any given day. And
Yeah,
so you can make that decision that you're not ready to let go of that item and that you will circle back to it later in the decluttering process. That's a decision and you feel in control of it. As soon as you make a decision that you feel has gone too far, that you're nervous about or anything like that, then sometimes what happens is that you can feel resentful. That's when you start to go, actually, I really regret getting rid of that. And then you start to reconsume, reacquire, all of those kind of things. It can be quite dangerous if you make any decisions that are not within your control. So it's about that fine balance, isn't it, between pushing yourself out your comfort zone, but not feeling out of control. And that's exactly why sometimes, you were talking before about somebody helping you. We've heard a million examples of this, Ingrid, where somebody else has got a completely different goal for your house than you have. And so somebody very well meaning, like we are not trying to deny the benefits that can come from somebody reaching
hmm
out to help you with your clutter. But sometimes, not always, it can be super detrimental because you then feel out of control because somebody wants to work at a different pace that you want to work at. Somebody does something, let's hope this doesn't happen, behind your back and think that they're making the right decisions, chucking stuff away when you're not looking. All of those kind of things only serve to move you backwards all of the time. And
yeah,
so this tough love, you need to gauge where you are. But sometimes it's just about that wake up one day. And this can be anything where you're going through any kind of transformational journey when you go, I've faffed around all week with this, and today I need to get serious. Isn't it? It's
yeah,
about
yeah,
that's the kind of tough love when you're doing self-talk. You need to go for positive self-talk, which is like, enough's enough. If I'm ever going to make progress, I need to do something that's out of my comfort zone, and I
yeah,
need to go for it this week, and I need to
yeah,
see how I get on today.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
See how it goes.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, Leslie, because we also give tough love in that we say to a lot of our members in the membership, especially the newer members, right? They come into our membership, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You've got like courses and live sessions and all the things, and I love it. But I've got this room that's really bad, and I'm going to do that first. And we always like give tough love and say, I know you want to do that, but don't do that. You need to start at the beginning. And they're like, but I've just literally done my kitchen and my bathroom and a linen cupboard. I really, really, really want to start with the clothes. And we're like, we know, but please listen to us. Many members then go to the beginning and they're like, well, Ingrid and Leslie obviously know what they're talking about. And they do go back. And what we see 9 out of 10 times, oh wow, I thought I had done my kitchen and my bathroom. But now I've gone back, I've listened to your courses, I've listened to your advice, I've actually done it cupboard by cupboard, area by area, and I've actually have such a done such a great job. I've decluttered things I wasn't even didn't even consider last time to let go, but your advice is sinking in. So and they see the successes that they're building up, and then always they say, now I feel far more ready to do the next kind of lot in the membership because I feel my decluttering muscle building up. And it's that tough love that we give. I know we sometimes we're like, just go to the beginning. And the members are like, yeah, but I don't want to go to the beginning. Like, we know, but you have to because we know that this approach will help you.
And I think, Ingrid, as well, just talking about the membership and talking about things like Q&A questions, which is really where we get to delve deep into people's personal
Mm,
situations. So we love
yeah,
it when our members share a lot. Often we get questions. So people will submit quite long questions, quite a lot of detail in them. And what we see really often, like at least one or two questions out of the 10 that we cover in every Q&A, that people are answering their own questions and all they want is that reinforcement from us to say, it's okay to do that. You're going down the right path. So
yeah,
it's just making that final mental leap. And it's the same
yeah,
when we're working one-to-one in people's homes as well. There's something very empowering about having somebody next to you that can say it's okay to do that. And so that tough love is, sometimes you need to reach out to other people. So if you can get help from somebody else, for example, it might be just that you need, like almost like a body doubling sort of situation where you've got somebody working alongside you who just gives you that final push to do what you know is the right thing to do. And so it's such a fine line and it's so difficult to talk about it because it's just so nuanced, isn't it, Ingrid, in terms of what
yeah,
it looks like on the day. But I think that if you can get over and if you can be a little bit tougher with yourself, you're going to see the emotional attachment that you've got to things, why you've been keeping things. If you work through those emotions, if you push yourself out and go, you know what, I know that I've got all of those things and I'm keeping them out of guilt. Once you go, it's okay to be tough on myself and go, you know what, just because my daughter gave that to me as a birthday present last year, it is hard, but I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to let go of it. And then once you've done that once, it makes it easier to do it a second time. So it reduces that emotional attachment to things along the way. It
yeah,
teaches you to prioritize what's important to you via this goal setting scenario that we're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
You're working towards your goals and you're going to do whatever it takes to get you there. You don't want to be doing decluttering I mean, yes, you will be decluttering for the rest of your life, but you don't want to be doing this big push on decluttering continually and it continually dragging you down. You want to kind of get over the hump almost, if that makes sense. So I think it's great to be able to move. I'm getting quite kind of passionate in this podcast, I think, about it. But it is really hard to know when you're there, right?
yeah, yeah. I think so too. And I think what we see is really that people who are tougher with themselves, and we've got one of our members in our membership who's, been with us for a while, and she's been dabbling with the roadmap in and out. And beginning of this year, she's like, right, I'm going to now do the roadmap. I'm going to commit. I'm going to do it step by step. And she is just
Flying.
flying.
Absolutely.
And I saw her on a success session this morning, and she was like, "I'm gonna do this, this, and this," and she's got like, "I've got several things." And in the past, she would just kind of move stuff around a little bit in her kitchen cupboards and go, "Oh, but I want it all." And now she's like, "I'm following Ingrid Leslie's advice. I'm taking everything out. I'm looking at it. I'm being realistic with myself. I'm looking at the current me." What fits in my life and what I'm going to use. And I'm not going to feel guilty because my mom, my sister, and whoever all gave it to me, or my old job, or what works for me in my current life. And I think us being softly, and occasionally a tough love approach on her, she's now being tougher on herself and she's reaping the benefits of that. And it's amazing to see. And you could just see her. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I don't know, happier. I can't explain it, but you could
But
just
we're
see.
happy because we've
Yeah, I
seen it.
know.
We've
I
seen
know.
it.
I know.
She's fully committed to the
Yeah.
kind of Ingrid and Leslie process, the
Yeah.
decluttering process,
Yeah.
but she's not quite got to a stage where she was ready to be that little bit tougher on herself and move out
Yeah.
of her comfort zone and follow the process.
Yeah.
And now that she is, she's absolutely flying. And
And
so,
what you see then, Leslie, she is now accelerating that process. She is doing things more methodically. She's doing things quicker. I mean, she still takes her time to ponder, but she's not feeling like she's going backwards all the time. You can see that she's like doing it step by step, less churning stuff around, more like, what do I want? And it's fantastic.
it is absolutely. And I think, just sort of going back to talking about ourselves, which you shouldn't be doing really, but I think that, it was quite funny to us, and we only really picked up on it and we kind of know, but I think it was when the book came out, right, Ingrid, and we were getting a lot of reviews and things like that, and people saying it's kind, it's empathetic, it's gentle, and so Ingrid and I think that we're quite sort of, obviously Ingrid thinks that she's stern and harsh or whatever the definition was. And we know that we're not that. And we know that in order to get the most out of people, we need to be empathetic and kind. That's, because people who have clutter and have had clutter all their lives come from a place where people have been unkind and harsh and ungentle all the time. And so we need to reverse that in the first instance and come into a community where people will be kind and will understand and won't judge you for where you've been. And then slowly but surely, like the lady that we were talking about before, people will start to build up and build up. And then all of a sudden, there's no requirement for us to give tough love to this person because they've done it for themselves. But,
Yeah.
but sometimes, as I was saying, it's more en masse. The tough love doesn't come out very often, and it's funny in our Q&As. Every now and again they'll be like, the mean decluttering ladies are in town. Every now and again we'll sort of get to a stage where it's like, enough's enough now. We need to move this forward, and it's normally when we feel that people are sort of stuck in their own head a little bit and stopping their own progress from getting forward. So just to sort of reiterate that we're not like tough love, harsh people all the time. That's like more of a kind of unusual one, isn't it, Ingrid? But I think
Yeah.
it does have its place as a
Yeah.
strategy
Yeah.
within decluttering for some people at certain times, because
Yeah.
I think it can accelerate the process. It can create that lasting change that you want. It feels very empowering to take back control of what you're doing as well, and to take back control of your home.
I know. And that's in the end what we want, with everything that we do, whether it's here on the podcast, in our membership, in our lovely Facebook group. All of the things are there so you can take control of your decluttering and your home, and create more space and more energy and more, enjoyment in life. And that's, I think, the most crucial thing, and why we occasionally use tough love. But I think it can be really helpful. And I hope that this podcast has made you think, like, am I being tough on myself, or do I always take the softly approach, or do I actually need to speak to myself and have a talking to myself to go, come on, no, I know you want to sit on the sofa after dinner and watch TV, but I'm not going to like that dirty kitchen tomorrow morning when I come in and want to make myself breakfast and a cup of tea. Let's go after dinner. Don't sit down. We're going to spend that 15 minutes tidying it all up, emptying the bins, wiping the kitchen counters, wiping the stove or the hob, and just give myself that, and that's tough in the beginning. That you have to be, strong and go.
Yeah.
But the people who do it and say to themselves, and they say to themselves, I'm going to do my future self a favor here. And the people who consistently start to do these daily habits that we talk about a lot here on the podcast see the difference, because they start to feel better when they do sit down. They're like, yes, go me. I did it. I was really tough on myself, but I did it. I'm feeling really proud of myself now. So you can give yourself a pat on the back. In the morning, you're pleased with yourself. And then the one time that you don't do it, you're like, oh, I know now why I do this every day. Oh, I should have spoken to myself last night to do it and not just go, oh, I'm tired. I can't be bothered. Because you are bothered. And a calm, tidy, and clean house gives so many positives. And that's the thing. It's all these habits and things that can really change how you feel in your home. And we want you to feel a happy and content person. And that's why we're on a mission, aren't we, Leslie? Just keep talking about decluttering and organizing.
Yeah.
Until we can't do no more.
Yeah. Until we're like, yeah, tough love on ourselves. Enough now. We're 97. Maybe we need to sit and have a cup of tea and watch TV on the sofa.
Yeah.
Not continually be talking about decluttering all the time. So, yeah. Anyway, there we go. Tough love.
Come on, listeners. Tough love. Give us some examples when you have had to use tough love, maybe in your own situation. We would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment on the podcast, on the website. Share your stories. Yeah, because we're interested. We're really interested to know more about how you feel about this. So thanks so much for listening. We will see you again next Friday with a brand new podcast. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.